Hello everyone, welcome to our next class. Our today's topic is related to cache memory, and we are also going to talk about different type of other memories which we use in our computer. So first of all, let us talk about the cache memory. So it is a small memory which we have in our computer, and it is generally organized in layers. So if you want to check your own computer's cache memory, you can simply go to the task manager, and you can go to your system performance, and you can see what is the size of your cache of your CPU. So there are three layers of this cache. First one is layer 1, second layer 2, third. Then we have this combined works as a total amount of cache for your computer. Now the layer 1 is the smallest cache. Then as we move from L1 to L2 or L3, the size of this cache increases. Now, what happens in this? In L1, we have that data which is very frequently used by your CPU. Then the second is the data which is less frequently used by your CPU. L3 is same, the least frequently used data inside among these three. Whichever data which is kept in cache, so which is least used, that is kept in the third layer. After this, we have RAM, which works as your memory. So the next type of data is stored in memory, and the last type is stored in disk. Now there is one property related to it. Now what is that property? Anything which is present, we have discussed about this property as well earlier as well. So whatsoever data we have in cache, that must be present inside memory, and any data which is inside the memory must be present in hard disk drive. But the reverse is not true. Like the data which is in hard disk drive cannot be the whole data cannot be present in memory, and the data which is inside the memory cannot be present in RAM. Now there are different reasons for it. First one is the size. Like if the hard disk drive is of 200 GB or 500 GB, you can't store whole content inside the memory, which is of 8 GB. Whereas if the memory size is 8 GB, you can't store it in 3 MB. So this is one of the reason why we can't have the same data. But the reverse is always true. So whatsoever you have in cache, it should be present at this and at this place as well. So we'll discuss about it, how these things work, and what was the need of cache, and how do we decide which data we should be shifting to cache. Like from disk, which data should be shifted to cache, or from memory, which data should be shifted to cache. So we are going to discuss about that. So there is a concept behind it. The first thing which we keep aware, which we keep in track, that is locality of reference. The reference of memory at a given time interval tend to be confined within localized areas. This area contains set of information, and the membership changes gradually as time goes by. Now what does it mean? It means that whenever you are going to access the data in memory or inside the computer, there is a property related to it. And what is the property? If we are using something, and this is a sequence, so what will be the next number? 7. After this, the next number will be 8. Similarly, if I'm accessing some data like this, so you can very frequently understand that what will be the next number. So it will be 60. Okay. So what does it says? It says that most of the data which we are going to access very frequently is near to the data which we are already executing. So if I am executing 40, the next data would be nearby that. Okay. So if we are executing a program and we have a address 300, then the next possible address which we can you can say ask for can be 301, 302, 303 if it is a sequential program. So that is what we have, locality of reference. Now the next thing which we have is, there are two type of localities which we have. First one is temporal, second is spatial. Now what is the difference between temporal and spatial locality? The first thing is temporal. Temporal means any data which we are currently using. In the near future, we are going to reuse that information. That is temporal locality. So if we are using certain data, it is very probable that in future we are going to use the same data. So that is a temporal locality. So you can understand it in the form of loops. Like when your program is executing some data, it re-executes or requires the same data. Now, the second thing is spatial locality, and this spatial locality is based on what we have discussed right now at this place. So, if a word is accessed, its adjacent or nearby words are likely to be accessed. So, if we have assessed a certain address, its nearby address, it might be the next address or it might be the back address. So, they might be accessed. You can say in the near future. So that is what we have in the spatial locality. So if there is any question that what is the basic reason for cache to work, and that is your locality of reference, and what are the different types of localities. So that is temporal locality and spatial locality. Now, the due to the property of locality of reference, it makes the cache system to work. So cache is actually a very small memory which is likely to be storing a very small amount of data. But what data should be inside the cache, that is decided on the locality of reference principle. That whatsoever data we are currently using, we are going to keep the same data. That is for temporal locality. For spatial, we are going to access the nearby data as well. Now, performance of cache. Now, how it actually works. As we discussed earlier, we have a CPU. We have a CPU. Now, inside that CPU, the first thing which we have, that is a CPU, and it is having cache on it. So this is a CPU, and we have a cache with it. Okay. Now, if there are different type of memories which we have in this, so if we have a memory in cache, so if we have a cache inside a CPU, then after this we have another thing known as RAM, so which we have on your computer. After RAM, we have hard disk drive. Now, when CPU wants to access any data, first of all, it reaches to cache. If the data is present, it is fine. If it is not, it will need to visit RAM. If it is present there, access it. If it is not, move to hard disk drive. Okay, so this is what we have studied. Now, what happens actually? If the word is in cache, then access, that is what they are saying, access cache to provide it to the CPU. So it will be directly moving from CPU to cache to CPU. If the word is not in cache, bring a block or line including that word and replace the block now in cache. Now, what does it mean when we say, firstly, your CPU accesses cache if it is present, fine. If it is not, access RAM. Now, once it is accessing RAM, if there is certain data which is found to your CPU, that data will be picked up from RAM and shifted to cache, and then CPU will use it from cache. The similar thing will happen with the hard disk drive. If in RAM data is not available, hard disk drive will be accessed, and the data from hard disk drive will shift to RAM. From RAM, it will shift to the cache, and then CPU will use it. So this is how the data is accessed. Okay. So now the next thing is it raises two questions. First of all, how we can know what word your CPU requires next. And as we are also aware that the size of RAM is smaller as compared to the hard disk drive, whereas cache small is even smaller than RAM. So what to do with the existing blocks? Like if we are talking about hard disk drive, I'm just taking an example, this is an example in which we are storing the data. So it has more capacity to store more amount of data. Whereas when we are talking about RAM, it is smaller as compared to hard disk drive. So the amount of content which it can store is less. Whereas the cache is having very small size. Now, what we should do if we are moving, like just assume that this is a some data which we have. I want to shift this content to this place and it is already filled. So we have certain data stored already. We need to replace this data with the new data. Now new data is A at this place. So this is A. So we are going to replace this content from here to this place. Then inside the cache, we are already having cache filled. So we need to replace certain block of data and then shift that data to from RAM to cache. So this process happens. Okay. So we need to shift the data from one type of memory to another and then it is accessed. So how the cache system works, now let us talk about that first of all. So we have something known as hit ratio. Now hit ratio is when your CPU is trying to access the data and it was able to find it inside the cache. So that is a hit. That is a hit. If your CPU is not able to find the data, it is known as miss. So the ratio between hit and miss is known as hit and hit ratio. The ratio between these two times, the number of times your system is able to find the data inside the cache and the number of times CPU is not able to find the data, the ratio between both of them is known as hit ratio. Then we have another term known as TE. It is the effective time taken by your CPU to access the data inside cache. That is CPU effective time or TE. Then after this we have cache access time. After this we have TM. TM is the main memory access time. Like if your system is going to access main memory, how much time will it take? That is represented by TM. Okay. Now TE is what we are going to calculate. So TE is like what is the total effective time to access the cache, and there are different methods to access it. Now let us talk about the TE factor. TE is total effective time, which is equivalent to the time to access the cache plus now 1 minus H TN. Now what does it mean? TC is the time which your system is taking to access the cache. 1 minus H. Now what is it? When your CPU is going to move to RAM, when it is not able to find the data inside the cache. So that is what they are writing at this place. 1 minus H. H is the number of times your CPU was able to find your data inside the cache. That is represented by H. 1 minus H means it is the number of times when your CPU is not able to find the data inside the cache, because H represents how many times CPU was able to find data in cache, or you can say it is a hit ratio, like how many times it was able to find the data inside cache. That is represented by H. So how many times it was not able to find, whatsoever value we have for H, subtracted from 1. Then why we are multiplying it with memory? Because after that, if it is not able to find it here, it needs to visit to this place. So that is why we are multiplying it with Tm. So in this example which we are using, we have the value of Tc is equal to 0.4 milliseconds. Time to access memory is 1.24 and the hit ratio is 85, or you can say this is the number of times it was able to find the data inside the cache. Now 85 represents that it is 85%, like 85% times it was able to find it inside the cache. Now just put it in the formula. We are going to use this. Tc is equal to 0.4 plus 1 minus, now if it is hit 85 times, if we are going to divide it by 100, it will be 0.85. Like out of 100, 0.85 times it was able to find the data. And how many times it was not able to find? 1 minus 0.85 into 1.25, 1.24. So you can use 1.24 from here because it is Tm value which we have here. So which comes out to be, so this is the total effective time to find out the data inside a cache memory system. So this is how we calculate the data. So this is the method to calculate the performance of your memory system which you are setting up. What should be our motive? Our motive should be to reduce this time as much as possible while keeping the cost in bound, which means we are not supposed to increase the cost while trying to minimize this time. It should be a balance, like cost and speed. There should be a balance between both of them. Now, the next thing which we have, let us uh, talk about the different cache mapping schemes. Now, why do we need these cache mapping schemes? So we have just said that we have to move some data from hard disk drive to RAM or from RAM to cache. It is fine. We are going to move the data. But how we are going to come to know which data we should shift? And if we have shifted some data from RAM to cache, where it is stored? Because we need to update that data inside the RAM as well. Like if there is certain data which we have inside the cache which is used by CPU, then CPU modifies this data, then that data should be reflected on RAM, and that data should also be reflected to hard disk drive. So currently what we are concerned about, or what we are going to cover, is how we are going to store the data on RAM and map it to cache. Like how we are going to shift the data from RAM to cache, what schemes we are going to use, those will be covered. So let us start this by starting. There are three different types which we are going to discuss throughout your this class. So that will be, first one is associative mapping. We have discussed about associative memory. Now we are talking about associative mapping. What is it? We will discuss about that. Then we have direct mapping, and last one is set associative mapping. So these are pretty simple, which we can understand without any problem. So let us firstly talk about the associative mapping. Now, in associative mapping, we are having we have already talked about the term which we discussed, content addressable memory, right? So in this associative mapping, what is going to happen? Any block location in cache can be stored in any block in memory. Like what does it signifies? This is cache. We have one another. This is RAM. This is just a bigger size RAM. any data from cache, okay, it can be stored at anywhere inside the memory. So we can store it wherever we want. This is the most flexible type of mapping. It is fast, which it is, because you can search it, everything is implemented inside the hardware, but it is very expensive. We have discussed about this thing, that every bit is going to have a mapping logic in it. Okay? So everything is required. So that is why it is quite costly. Now, in this case, it is going to store both the address as well as data. So we have already discussed about this thing when we talk about CAM, content addressable memory. We said that it is not going to store the data in the form of addresses, right? But this is not a content addressable thing. It is just a simple mapping scheme. We are talking about the mapping. So when we are mapping the data, we should be working on that principle which we have discussed about. That is our address. So address is required in this case, but the address needs not to be in the sequence like 0, 1, 2, 3. It needs not to be in this sequence. You don't need it to be in a sequence. It can be any address. Okay. And your address is also stored inside your system as a data. Address is also stored as a data. So that is what special is there inside this type of memory. So content addressable memory means we are going to search the content, and according to that we are having our data present. Okay. So it is simply just dividing this into two portions. One, we are going to store the address, and address is not a like address starting from 0, 1, 2, 3. It can be any address. It is like this is our address. After this, we have like, it is an example, this address, second, third, fourth, any address. But all the addresses which we are going to use, they are stored inside the content addressable memory. And even though it is written as address, but they are also stored as a data. And for that, we are having the type of first mapping, that is associative mapping. So the next type which we have after this was how we are going to store like any content. What happens in this, actually I will tell you, this is certain address. There will be certain address for this. This is a RAM, and for that we also have some content. What happens in this case, like if this address is 0100, this address is 02777, this is content 1, this is content 2, and here inside the memory we are having the associative memory, we are having different addresses. So this content is stored at this place. This is a table, content 1, this is for content 2. So any data from any address, like in this case, any data from any address can be stored at this place. So this is known as associative memory. We don't have any kind of designated place for any type of address. Like if this is a address like 0107, this is content 3. It might be stored at this place. We are not having any designated space for any type of address. We can store any address at any place. So that is why it is known as associative memory. And whenever we are searching, that search will be done according to this address which we have stored. But there is no specific location to store it at a particular address. So this is a associative memory mapping. Now, let us discuss the second type. Like, just remember one thing, in this they are saying 15 addresses, but here we are having 5. So the representation is different. One bit is representing 3 different bits, octal. Okay, it is an octal representation. Now, let us talk about the cache mapping. Now, first type is direct. So in this case, we have now, in the previous case, what we were having, we were not having any designated space for any type of address. But now we are going to have a designated space to store a particular address. Now let us discuss about this. In direct mapping, we have a memory. This is main memory, and we have a cache. Now, in this case, the example which is discussed in your slide, let us go by that. So there is a 32K into 12 memory. 32K into 12. The address bits are 15 because if you calculate, let us do it for you, 2 raised to the power 32. So this much. So the total address, if we calculate the 32K into 12, it is 32K bytes. So for that we need 15 bits for address and 12 bits for data. Okay. So there are 15 bits and one bit is represented by 3. So there are 3 different values in this. 000, it is actually not 5, they are 15 bits, 2 raised to the power 15. But what it signifies, it is signifying that this is a octal representation and we are having one bit representing 3 different bits in it. Okay. So this is how we are having 15 bits at this place. So 2 raised to the power 15, if we calculate 2 raised to the power 15 is 32768, which is 32K. Okay, 32K is equivalent to 32 into 1024. That will be 32 into 32768. So this is why we are having address bits of 15 bits. Whereas the size of cache which we have is 512 into 12. So the address lines are 9. So why? Because 2 raised to the power 9 are equivalent to 512. So for this we need 9 bits. For this we need 15 bits. But this is represented in the form of octal. So that is why we are using 5 bits here and we are using 3 bits here. Okay. Now if 15 bits are converted to 3 and 5, 15 bits are converted to 5 and 9 bits are converted to 3. So that is why this address is now changed from 9 zeros to 3 zeros, and this bit is changed from like what we say, from 9 to 3 only. Okay. So this is like 4, 2 and 1. 4 and 3, 7. So this is how it is now representing the 3 bits. Okay. So now let us talk about the memory. So in direct mapping, if this is a larger memory and there are 32K values in it, and this is a smaller memory in which we are going to store the content. Now this memory is of 32K bytes, like in this example. So we are going to start from 00000. So there are five bits which are representing actually 15 bits. Let me just use this. and the last address which we are going to have at this place will be 777 and 7. So this is the last address, this is the first address, and the memory which we are having for cache, it is only this value. And now we are going to create a method which will help you to store the content inside our cache and also help you to find it out, that how to simply once you are shifting the content from RAM to cache or from cache to RAM, how you are going to map it, because you need to have a table that where we are storing which address or which data we are storing at what location. So that is something which we require. So now in this case what we have is, we have this total memory, we divide it into two parts. This part, which is the rightmost part, this becomes our tag, and this part becomes our index. So this is our index, and this part will become tag. Now inside the cache, this is a cache memory. So inside cache, this part is known as index, and the tag is stored here. Now what are the different tags which we can have? It will start from 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, up to 77, up to this value. So that is what we are going to have in tag. And regarding tag, we also have some data. Now, let us see how this mapping works. So just imagine we are having certain content at this place, like as it is shown in your same value we are going to use, or we can have any other value like 0, 2, 0, 0, 1. So this is another address, 02110. So wherever you want to store that content, you can. Now at this place, we are having a content tag 00. So it is storing a value 1220. There is another content with the tag 02, and where is it stored? It is stored at 001. And the content, if I'm having, is 1430. So what simply happens, whatsoever is the address which we have at this place, this is now shifted to two things. One is tag, another is index. Tag is stored here, index is stored at this place. According to the tag and index, our values will change. Now imagine we are having another value which is having the same tag, which is having the same uh, different tag but same index. Let us imagine a value which is having same index but a different tag. So then what will happen? Like this value can be 03001. This is different tag but same index. So what will happen? We'll pick this value. We'll try to find out at this place. Index is same, so it means this is the value. But the tag is 02, but our tag is 03. So this value will be replaced because this is our required value. So this value will be replaced, and whatsoever content we have, it will be replaced at this place. So now what we are able to do, we are able to store the data from larger memory to a smaller memory while keeping the track which content is stored at what place. So that is our main motive of performing a mapping. Mapping is simply creating an index to remember that which content from RAM is stored at what place inside the cache. So this is the first technique, second technique to store this content. First one was your associative mapping, in which there was no particular place to store the content. But here Now we are having a particular space. For 001 index, we can only store those values at this place at 001 which are having the same index. If the index is different, you can't store it. If the index is different, you need to replace the existing value. So that is what we have inside the direct mapping technique. Now in this, let us discuss it on the slide as well. So see, at this place we have 0000 and the content is 1220. So we'll divide it into two portions. First one is tag. So tag is stored here. Index from this place is stored at this place. Okay, so this is the index. The content is 1220. Then this is the next 777. So 777, the tag is 02. So tag, if tag is 02, it means this content. Tag is 02. So 02 content, and what is the content? 6710. Now if I replace this value of tag with 01, if there is 01, then the content which should be stored here should be 4560, because then the tag is matching to this. Now if your system requires any address to be mapped, like if it wants this data to be shifted from this place to this, then we need to replace this value. And with what value we are going to replace? That will be this 4560. Why? Because our index and tag are not matching. Index is 777, which is matching, but the tag is not matching. The tag earlier is 01, now the new tag is 02, now the new tag is 01. If your system further requires some data which is from tag 00, but the index is 777, then this content will be this new content which we have just replaced, like this one 4560, will be replaced with the new content. So this is how it is going to work, right? Let us just take the same example once again. This was the example which I did. Let us take the same example here. 00 1220, and the last one is 777 Now this is the content which is stored in cache. Okay. So now this is the content which we have stored in our cache will be, let me just edit it if I can. Okay, so if we are at this place and we want to your system asks for some other data, like which is having a separate tag, then this value will be replaced by, instead of having 02, it will be replaced by 01. Tag is 01, and according to that 01 tag, the data will be changed to 4560. So this content will be changed to 4560. This entirely depends upon what type of request your CPU is doing. If your CPU wants to get a new data like this one, it reads wants to read this content, then what will happen? This tag will be replaced by 00, and the content will be 2340. Then this content will be here. This is how your data gets changed according to the mapping, or according to the request which we have to shift your data from main memory to cache. Because cache is smaller, we need to have a method how we are going to shift the data and how we can keep the track of that data. So that is why this division is done. Hopefully you understood it. Thank you everyone, thank you so much for your time. So we will do the next topic in the next class.